That one's dead. That one's dead. That one's dead. That one's dead. That one's looking bad. That one tipped over and died down there. That one's dead. It's already fallen down. The one behind it is dead. That one's dead. The one behind it is dead. There's a lot of dead trees around here, guys. So welcome back to Blackacre Ranch. And what I'm doing right now is going to tell you what we're planning to do with all these trees. I have loved having these trees. I think it's really great to have it on the property. It really makes it kind of something special in a lot of ways. There's reasons that we want to keep the trees. There's reasons we need to get rid of the trees. And frankly, the reasons to get rid of them is winning out. So we have actually been in discussions with a land management, forestry kind of company of some sort to figure out what maybe we do with these trees. So this started a couple of weeks ago. We kind of started making some calls about somebody to kind of help thin this out. We want to have pasture land. When I mow, it gets difficult to mow. I'm weaving in and out of trees. You guys have seen it in these videos. Sometimes it gets real crazy. I'm cranking the wheel back and forth. One of you guys suggested getting a knob on the steering wheel. I mean, I'll get calluses right here. My hands will hurt sometimes. You know, it's just a lot to deal with. And lately we've been just seeing with the droughts that came by the last 2 years, 3 years, so many trees have been dying off that it's time to kind of make this more pasture-like and getting kind of some of these grasses able to grow. So we've been talking to these people and they're going to come in. We're getting quotes now to have companies come in and harvest all of these pine trees, cut them down as close to the ground as they can, and clear out some of this space. We have 187 acres, plus or minus. About 120 of it is, you know, pasturable. So we're really looking to just kind of clear some space and be able to get some, maximize our grass area to help these buffalo, to have more buffalo, increase the land stocking rate, how many animals you can have on your land and so forth. And it's only going to be done with this kind of operation we're doing if we kind of get rid of some of the trees. So I'm sure you're going to be asking why get rid of them? Well, you know, let's kind of bring up some of those right now, I guess. With having pasture, you're able to grow more animals, feed your animals, your costs reduce, all the positives that if you have a setup for ranching with cows or buffalo or any other things that graze, you want to maximize the grass. With that in mind, let's go over some of these reasons why we actually want to do what we're doing, because there's different ways you can do it. If you guys remember earlier in the episodes that we had, way back when we first got the property years ago, we paid for a mulcher to come out and mulch out some areas. And one area that we had the mulch was over here. And this was our, what we call the 2.5 acres. And we gave it that name because who's the smart kid in class? It's approximately 2.5 acres. So this used to be a densely wooded mess like all of that over there. So we decided to have a mulcher come out, do the property lines, and clear out some of this. This is almost manageable. It's pretty manageable. It's not bad. The trees aren't super hard to deal with. We had to pay out of pocket $250 to $300 for a massive, huge mulcher, not the skid steer, double the skid steer size, to come out and take out some of these trees. If you look at the size of some of these things, they're huge. And so to mulch all that down, it was like a lot. And it took time and money. So instead of me paying somebody to do all that, we're having somebody pay us to do all of that. And they're gonna take the trees and put it to good use. And you might ask, what about the firewood, guys? Let's take all these trees down. You can use it for firewood. You can do plenty of good things. And that was our idea at the beginning. And we were doing the 2.5 acres. We decided to save some of those oak trees. For one, it was quicker for him to just knock it down with his mulcher like that, and we'll deal with it and haul it away, and then we can use it as firewood, than it was for him to try and just beat on this thing over and over and over. But here's the situation. We wanted a fireplace in our house, and frankly, we're not going to have one. Secondly, with all this firewood issue, it's firewood needs to be seasoned, and it needs to be cut at a certain time. It needs to have all those other different things that are with it. You want certain types of wood. You don't want a lot of sap wood. You know, there's just different things that are nice. It's nice to just go buy a cord of wood when you need it and you're done. I totally get that. I agree. It just doesn't make sense for us to have to worry about that when our house isn't gonna have a fireplace anyway. We'll still we'll have outdoor fire pits, but I don't need, you know, 20 trees a year, and at this rate, that's kind of what's happening. So another reason why it's optimal for us to do this now instead of waiting is because a lot of these trees are mature trees. So if you look at some of these in front of us, this is just at the lake. These trees are really, really big. And we're gonna keep driving around. And what we're having the issue is that a lot of them are dying, okay? And they've reached their lifespan. So right here is a dead tree. In the background, there's a double pine tree. You see the two forks come up. One half is dead. If we keep going, there's a dead pine tree over here. And so a lot of these trees are not growing much anymore. They've kind of reached that end of their growth cycle. That guy, the stump is broken half. It's gone. You know, the rate of growth is shrunk. They're getting struck by lightning and they're falling at increased rates. And it's getting more and more difficult to keep up with them. They're littering the pasture. I'm running over stumps and branches and all sorts of stuff. And so it's making mowing a little bit more difficult that way. In fact, I could stand in one section up here and count a dozen trees that have fallen, need to be cleared up, need to be cut down, and I'm just standing in one spot. So by us keeping all of these trees around, it's not helping really much of anything. The trees are still around, yes, but they're slowly dying off and kind of going to waste because we can't use them fast enough. And it's increasing the workload at the ranch. I could go out there with the chainsaw, rip through some of these things, but for me to digest that and get through all of these things, there is countless truckloads of trees. It would be ridiculous to deal with. People came by and now they're submitting their bids, and we're gonna elect the highest bidder. The company we've been talking to is coordinating all of that. They're like the general contractor. They get paid a portion, a percent, based on what is collected. All right, well, we go and show you the fourth reason why we're getting rid of this. I will kind of address the elephant in the room. I know some of you might complain about it. Don't get rid of every one of your trees, okay? Well, we're not gonna get rid of every one of the trees, okay? They are gonna take a certain selection of trees in certain areas. So the trees that they're gonna focus on are gonna be the pine trees. And I told them, especially the sweet gums, I gave them license to take any and all sweet gums that they desire to take. Outside of that, there are a couple types that they're gonna do, but I don't remember which ones they were. But anyway, all of these trees by the lake would be those that they would take. But I did explicitly tell them no hardwoods. I want no oak tree touched. And even these American sycamores in front of us, these things are ginormous. I swear, from the 1800s. They've got to be 10 or 12 stories high. I mean, they're huge. The trunk is probably 4 feet or more in diameter. Look at the size of this sucker over here. I don't know if you can gauge honestly how thick. That's almost 4 or 5 feet or more. These branches are bigger than some of the trees we have. We're still gonna have 68, 70 acres, I don't know, somewhere around there, 60 acres of tree areas that we can still take down trees and get firewood for outside and experience stuff. And also in the pastures, the animals are going to still have shade. Okay, I moved ourselves up to the front 3 acres. This is the area in front of the gate that goes down. In fact, you might be able to see the gate, the roadway, and our gate up front. This is approximately 6 acres. And this is approximately 3 acres. So the fourth reason why we want to get rid of this, it's all with that same idea of setting up pasture land, okay? Pine trees do not support pasture land very well. And this is an ideal example of the kind of stuff we're dealing with. We have a pine tree, pine, and the needles just suffocate out growth of any grasses. I think it affects the acidity level of the ground, but it does not help. Trees ginormous. Have mercy. All right, so you might be asking, well, Jeff, what trees are going? Is it like every pine tree that's gonna happen to go? Is it like all the saplings? Like, what size is it? And it's gonna be, I think he told me, anything that's about 5 or 6 inches in diameter and at least, I think, 14 or 16 feet tall. I've got some not small hands, I'm pretty proud to say. But that may not be big enough around for them to take. I sure hope it's not one of those things where you wake up, or you come in the next day and you're like, wow, that was a really bad haircut. All right, so as we get back up to the ranch, the compound, you might say, a question that might come up, I'm sure it would be is why not just do one section, okay? Why not try it out? If you're worried about maybe getting scalped and maybe not liking it, what's the harm in just doing that? And it has to make sense for him to do it. And there is a minimum load requirement. I don't know if it's like 20 truckloads, whatever. Anyway, there's a minimum truckload requirement to make it worth any of their time even doing this. And so if you have 10 acres, you may not even be able to do this as an option. If you have 5 acres or 20 acres, you know, it just depends on how many trees you have. But this stuff may not even be an option for you to even do. And so, you know, like the front 6 acres and the 3 acres and 9, they may get the minimum quota, maybe. They're not sure, but you know, maybe. And it doesn't seem to make much sense for them to come out and just do a minimum quota and then risk maybe not having the minimum quota elsewhere. So next question you might say is, what is the expected impact on the ground? We just planted grass all over there, right? And I'm kind of concerned about that. They're gonna have a big piece of machinery come out and chop this thing, saw it right off at the ground level as low as they can, fall it over, they're gonna cut the branches off, and they're gonna make a pile, like a burn pile of all those branches. I'm getting expert in having burn piles, but never burning them. So, you know, something similar to this. They're gonna take all those branches, pile them together and drop them. They're probably gonna go down here on the top of 6, and they're gonna do a pile down there. Move their cutter and move all their skid, and they're gonna work the top of 7 over here. They will have a certain section, they'll follow the same pathway up. So when they have a burn pile out there and they drag the logs up for loading, they will have a road of just where they're gonna be driving. So there'll be one area that's just kind of, that's it. But they're not like 4-wheeling across everywhere. They're not tearing up everything. So we're gonna have a lot of burning to do afterwards, but you know, the true results of the impact of what's gonna happen, you know, we're just gonna have to see. And so this video is gonna be the rest of this going through this whole cycle. I wanted to put it all in one video, so stick around. We're gonna show you what we can. I don't know if I'll even get a lot of machinery operating because they may be here different hours than I can, but we will show you as we go through this kind of what's happening. Let's get to some of this action and we'll explain a little bit more as we're going through it, and let's all kind of see how this all looks. We're gonna have before and after pictures, hopefully, and when this is all said and done, I don't know, leave in the comment, I guess, about whether or not you thought it was worth it, whether you thought they did a good job, your own thoughts, concerns, happiness, sadnesses, joy, sorrows, pains, sufferings, whatever you want to put in the comments, go for it. So let's get to it, guys. It's fun to watch him do this as he cuts down some trees, and There are a number of trees that are still standing, actually. I was afraid we were just going to scalp everything, but it's not that bad. So it's fun to see him because, like, the big trees, he'll just do a cut, and then he has to come back maybe from a different side and cut, and he can't hold it, so it's going to start tipping, and it might rip out some because he hasn't cut all the way through it or something, but he's just guiding it. And the smaller ones, he can just grab, move to the next one, open it, grab another one, and cut two. So it just depends on the size of the tree, how he handles it. But I was wondering, like, what he's going to do when he tries to tip these things. And, you know, his truck's only so heavy. So, but he's doing a good job. You could almost hear that one he didn't get all the way through, and so he was breaking off at the stump. Yeah, there. the tree people have left, and they've taken some stuff down. So this is one of the 2 pastures they started with. They started here in 6 and in 7. I don't know if we actually got a before-after picture for before picture of 6, but if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know the animals have been here. We've shown this a lot. You can see all the way back to the very, very, very back. And they've taken out, I don't know how many trees over there, quite a few, and it looks really nice. Over here on the side, there's like this one solo tree there. There's one that's kind of down. We had about 5, 6 pine trees that were super tall right there. They took that down. Right here at the front corner of the pond lake area, there was a couple pine trees that were there. They took those down. And then of course across the way, you can't really see it so much from here, but you see all the little brown stuff in the pasture all over there. They took a bunch of those trees and then went down into 7. So we're gonna actually show you some of the different areas and some that are a little bit more up close, but it's done. And we're gonna give you kind of some of our thoughts, what we think about this, kind of how it turned out, would we do it again, that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's go show you the size of some of these burn piles that we've got to take care of. They're huge. This is the aftermath of kind of just here in 6. This is where they had the big delimber thing and the whole skidder. They dragged everything up, and this is where they then piled everything that was over here. That is probably, I would say, 30 feet by 20 feet by 15 to 20 feet up. So it's pretty big. But the part that I was hoping wouldn't happen so bad as the ground. It was raining those days, but this ground is all just mankied up, you know? So we've got just debris everywhere, ruts everywhere. I need to get the box blade on the back of the tractor and come over and try and smooth this all back down. But I did mow, if you can't tell, the pretty grass, and I was able to do it, but it wasn't that great. We've got to come back in and clean all this up. There's a lot of debris. That's the thing, there's a lot of debris. Nice oak tree that was left, but you can see all the way back, guys. It's just really nice to see everything. I will say that's my one gripe, is just the damage to the land. I got to go back and now clean everything up. This is just one spot. So every spot that they kind of housed all that kind of equipment, it got torn up like this. They'd pull them all the way from this spot and drag them, or like drive it straight out. And you can see their tire tracks. And this is the skidder. And then we've got big old nasty ruts right there where it got a little soft. Up top by the gate, it isn't so bad, or the fence, but we had to take down the fence in certain spots, open it up. Got to do some different things like that here and there. I will just say, guys, they did not fix all the fences like they said they would. In other spots, they actually had smoothed this out, and I don't know why they didn't do that with this. So that was one of the gripes I would have, is that they were not consistent in how they maintained the ground. They left this like trash. In other spots, they smoothed it out. Other spots, they just didn't even really do anything, it felt like. So, oh well. So the stumps, I was able to mow over a number of them out here, but I'll tell you, when you come up on one of those things, I know it's only like 3-4 miles an hour, you come by and hit a stump with your tire and it just boom, because it all gets covered by this pine needle stuff. And so you're not sure if it's just pine needles, and then all of a sudden, no, that's a stump under there, and you smack it with your mower and you hear it. So you're trying to pull up on the mower to raise it in time, and it gets a little hairy. So we'll have to come back and actually either saw them down super low, or I have to well, dance around them for a while until we mulch them. All right, guys, this is pasture 5, and this is where they went to next after 6 and 7. You can see the massive burn pile, guys. Same kind of stuff here. They actually kind of treated the ground a little bit better. They don't have as many ruts, but right in front of us, this is where they wanted to bring the semi trucks out with a load of stuff. And we told them, dude, it's awful sandy. They're like, no worries, we've got it. Well, they got stuck here a couple times, and they ended up having to start using the gate that's out there. And in process of doing that, they ran over the H-brace and busted the whole fence. That they have not fixed. At least they got it standing up, but you know, you go over there and sneeze at it and it blows down. So they did a sucky job on repair. They didn't really do what they should have done, and you know, such is life. But they kind of smoothed this out, but they obviously did some erosion And I don't know, it kind of messed this place up pretty bad. So they went from 5, and they were right up on top of that hill, and they went straight out and they started doing 4. Now 4 is going to be kind of hard for us to get you a full picture, but right in the middle of 4 is that low section, kind of like what we have here, but you kind of have a sloped bank on the back side, a sloped bank on the front side. Well, both sides were pretty well taken down. We can go show you the big burn pile up front by that, and then we'll kind of loop around also and grab a little bit of the other area and kind of finish this thing up. So while we're driving over there, I'm going to kind of mention some of the things that you might have seen. So if you're looking at some of this, you might be like, hey Jeff, you've got a number of pine trees still available and still up. And I would tell you there are a lot of pine trees that are actually still up. Now when you looked at 5, I don't know if you could tell, it is open more. They have taken down a number of trees, and I mean it is definitely opened it up, especially on that ridge. You know, you almost look at the house right now and you don't see a single tree anywhere around it, whereas you used to see a bunch of pine trees behind it in the pasture. But especially if you look over here around the lake, they didn't do jack. Like, what in the world did they even take down? And this is one area, like some of these are sweet pine trees right here, like they just didn't take them. And I had the guy out here like 3 times, like, dude, why are we not taking down pine trees? If it's too far leaned out, this is the explanation. Then when he grabs it and cuts it, it's gonna fall that way, and he can't direct it back up to come back inward. And if it falls in towards the water or the mud area, he can't get the skidder on it anyway, and therefore he's not gonna take it. But this one isn't that way. Those aren't that way. Some of these aren't that way. That one's leaning back. So a lot of these, and it's not even just here at the lake. I mean, there's just some elsewhere, you know, and it just felt like it was a struggle to get him sometimes to take some of these trees, which they said that they would take. The cutter guy even said that he was going to take, but then he didn't take it. But you know, I asked him, I'm like, hey, if I come out with a chainsaw and just saw it down, would you guys be willing to take it? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, all right, well, no. So, you know, such is life. So here's pasture 4. You can see it's the same kind of stuff as what we had before. They've really kind of done this on both banks, as I was saying, so they did a better job smoothing it out here, but this is kind of the damage. And then let's go check out the burn pile. So obviously we've got another burn pile here. This was the landing spot for a lot of stuff like that was up here around the lake, but also the stuff that was out here, somewhat over there and somewhat over here. But just looking at this, guys, I mean, how many pine trees? Now this has no lake over here. No lake, none. This doesn't have one. There's some even up there we're gonna show you in a little bit that doesn't have any. There's that big pine they said had too many trunks, but each trunk, if it was an individual tree, they would have taken it. So, you know, anyway, you see, it feels like you're just griping, but they really left a lot. They didn't even touch any of the stuff back in here much of the way, except some of the surface stuff on the outside, and they did take down the widowmaker tree that I was waiting to fall. It just feels like they just didn't cut. And as much as they said, so they estimated a certain amount of what they would get cut and how much value that would be. And it looks like, in all honesty, they probably left twice as much, you know, and, you know, whatever. The part I really love about what we did, and what an advantage of this was, This has been the easement for all of the mowing and everything for the electrical, and it's never been known really how bad it gets back here, but it really opened up. See, it looks like a dirt clod, but all of a sudden that's total stump. Anyway, but it opened up. Like, look how much room back from the easement all the way up to here. That's probably almost like 80, 100 feet of extra space that we didn't know about. And then this is actually drivable down into here. And it opens up again. So this is not as sloped as I was thinking, but it's actually like so cleared out. And so I'm actually really impressed with how much they did take out of here compared to what, you know, I felt like they were doing before. I would love to get a mulcher and kind of a crew out here, take down these stumps, take down all this other brush weed junk, and just really open this back up. And this is like about 6 acres of land, and I think this is actually usable. We could put cows, buffalo, stuff like that down here. But I'm impressed about how open it really is. And this is like a minefield, man. Charlotte said it. It's like a minefield of just stumps and twist your ankles. All right, guys, so that's it in a wrap, right? I guess the ultimate question is, would we do this again? Yeah, I guess. It's not gonna be as rosy as you might think it was. When the guys came out to do the original quote, they were more optimistic. They said that more trees would come down than what did. They never said if it's too big, we can't take it. They didn't say anything about like, well, if it's too big of a tree, the people aren't used to it. The cutter guy was like, hey, I'm just not used to trees this big, which therefore meant he didn't take trees that he probably could have, but because they just weren't used to it. Which, you know, you kind of rely on that intermediary guy who you hire to kind of coordinate all this, that they would know that. So it just felt like what they said was going to happen didn't happen, and it was kind of more frustrating that way in educating us and figuring out what's going on and why not. We have pasture space, that's good. We did not make nearly, we maybe got half, probably half what they said we were going to get out of this. So, you know, whatever their projection is, you know, take it with a grain of salt, guys. Most all that money, even if we put it into mulching and got the property back, probably would not cover the amount of money it would take to put all this back. So it's not like we're gonna make tons of money on this and go to the bank and go buy a car or something like that. I mean, you just can't. We're gonna have to put some of the money back into it to help in certain areas. It's cheaper and quicker to mulch these stumps when they're dried out. So we're gonna wait 6 to 9 months, maybe summertime next year, and have a mulcher kind of help out. In the meantime, we're trying to clear up what we can and, you know, hopefully make it as cheap as possible. But yeah, so I guess I would do it again because we need the space and want the grass to grow, but it's not as rosy as maybe sometimes you might think. So yeah, I guess that's all I would say about it. So mulching is done. Well, not mulching, land clearing, logging is done. We still have a bunch of trees, as you can tell, which means I still need chainsaws. So maybe I still go out and get myself a bigger chainsaw, but we'll find reasons to cut things down. So anyway, if you have any questions, put them in the comments about why stuff is the way it is, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us, clearing out a bunch of this stuff and moving debris and then burning some sweet old piles of wood sometime. Oh my goodness, so bad. I don't know, maybe months down the road when it cools off, but anyway, we're gonna leave it here. Enjoy yourselves. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll catch you later. Bye.